For, as the wisdom contained in the Kybalion explains, nothing in the universe happens by chance. Chance, it says, is but the name we give to causes that we do not understand. So the fact that these words have found their way to you, already a part of something unfolding, a meeting not of coincidence, but of resonance. There are moments in life when the knowledge appears at the right time, but only when the soul is ready, not ready in intellect or logic, but ready in vibration. The Kybalion is one of those thresholds, a book so small you would carry it in your pocket, yet vast enough to hold the architecture of reality itself. It has quietly existed for over a century, but the wisdom is much older than any printed page. Its roots dive back through the sands of Egypt, through the temples of Thoth, through the voice of Hermes Trismegistus, the figure who was said to be thrice great, great in wisdom, great in power, and great in love for the divine. But Hermes was not just a man. He was an archetype, a consciousness between two worlds, the Egyptian god of sacred knowledge and the Greek messenger of the gods. Together, they formed one symbol of something timeless, the bridge between what is visible and what is hidden, between matter and spirit, between the human mind and the mind of the all. The teachings of Hermes were never shouted. They were whispered, passed from initiate to initiate, carved not into stone, but into the deeper substance of consciousness itself, never meant to convince the skeptical, only to awaken the prepared. And thus, across time, through fire, the loss of temples, and the silence of centuries, these teachings survived, hidden in fragments, encoded in symbols, and gathered into a single synthesis, the Kybalion. It appeared in 1908, written by 3 anonymous initiates signing their work with no name. They told nothing about themselves, because who they were did not matter. The message was older than any author. What they compiled was not invention, it was remembrance. The Kybalion presents 7 universal laws, 7 principles operating through all things. They are not commandments, but rather descriptions of how existence itself functions. Everything that moves, breathes, thinks, or evolves does so through them. Of these, the first is referred to as the principle of mentalism. It starts with one sentence that, once understood, changes everything. The all is mind. The universe is mental. It sounds abstract until you realize it describes the foundation of your every experience. Before there was matter, before there was light, there was awareness. The universe isn't a machine made of dead parts. It is thought, living, intelligent, awake. Think of it this way. When you dream at night, whole worlds appear within you. Mountains rise, oceans move, people speak. Yet when you wake, you see it all emerged from the single field of your mind. The dream was not separate from you, it was you. Now imagine that same principle expanded infinitely. The physical universe, the galaxies, the stars, every atom, every moment of your life, all of it existing within the mind of something vast and conscious. The ancients called it the All. The Hindus called it Brahman. The mystics called it the One. Everything we perceive is part of this infinite thought. Every tree, every sound, every feeling in your chest is an expression of mind vibrating itself into form. You are not inside the universe. You are inside a thought so big, so subtle, that it became what we call existence. And just like a dream reflects the inner condition of the dreamer, your life reflects the inner condition of your own consciousness. This is where the teaching goes from the cosmic to the personal, because if everything is mind, then every thought matters. Every emotion is a frequency. Every belief is an act of creation. Most people are drifting through life, repeating the same thoughts that they inherited from others. Beliefs about scarcity, about failure, about fear, and about not being enough. And because thought is vibration, those beliefs become a signal that shapes what reality reflects back. As the Kybalion teaches, there is no external world that is separate from an internal one. They are a mirror and an image. Change the reflection in the mirror, and nothing happens. But change the image, and the reflection follows instantly. When you shift the inner vibration, the outer world reorganizes. It may not happen in a flash of magic, but it happens through synchronicities, through subtle openings, through paths that appear where none were before. This is actually how creation works, not through effort, but through resonance. Modern science is only now beginning to see hints of this. Quantum physics observes that the smallest of particles do not behave like solid things. They exist as waves of probability until observed. Observation collapses possibility into form. Consciousness shapes matter. The Kybalion said this centuries before physics had the words to describe it. You can feel this in your own life. On days when you wake with clarity and gratitude, the world seems to respond. Doors open, conversations flow, even chance encounters carry meaning. And on days when you wake heavy with worrying, everything seems to resist you. That is not coincidence. It is the mind reflected through matter. But here is where the teaching deepens. The Kybalion does not ask you to force control over your thoughts. It invites you to observe them with awareness, to realize that you are not the mind itself, but the consciousness behind it. Once you understand this, you are free to decide exactly which thoughts to feed and which to let dissolve. That is the beginning of mastery. Not mastery of dominance, but mastery of alignment. To align with the laws that already sustain the universe is to stop fighting the current of existence. It is to move with it consciously, gracefully, awake. This is why the Kybalion only reveals itself when the student is ready. For to know that all is mind means taking full responsibility for everything you create. There can be no victimhood here. There is no out there, only reflections of what vibrates within. It is both a liberating and terrifying truth, in that it means the power to shape your life was never in the hands of chance. It was always within your own vibration. This is where the path of the initiate begins. This is a time when you cease asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What within me is being reflected by this?" The Kybalion is not a book to be read, it's a mirror to be lived. When you open it, the words are not ink, but frequency. They will wake up what was already sleeping inside you. So, if you are still here, reading this, breathing slower, feeling the faint hum of recognition within your chest, understand this. Your soul asked for this. Your consciousness called it in, and the all has responded. This is only the first key, the first vibration of a greater pattern, which holds within it every rhythm of life. In the next part, we start to trace that pattern deeper to those invisible laws which govern every motion, every heartbeat, every creation in the universe. Nothing is by chance, everything is by law. If everything is mind, then law is its language. The universe does not move by accident. It breathes and expands, contracts and transforms through precise principles that weave every event into the grand tapestry. These principles were not invented by man. They were observed by those who looked deeply enough to see the patterns behind appearance. In the Kybalion, they are referred to as the 7 hermetic laws, 7 currents of intelligence flowing through all things. To understand them is to understand how reality moves, but more importantly, to live by them is to move in harmony with existence itself. These laws do not demand worship, they require awareness. They are not moral rules, but vibrational mechanics. The ancients said they were written into the structure of the all. First, you already know, mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Everything begins in thought. This is the root. Every other principle branches from this one. The second is correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. It means that every layer of reality reflects the next. What happens in the unseen shapes what is seen. The same laws that guide the stars guide the cells of your body. The same principles that move galaxies move your heart. Every part of the universe reflects the whole. This is the law that explains why your outer life reflects your inner life. If your mind is turbulent, then your environment becomes disordered. If your mind is clear, the world starts to organize itself around that clarity. The ancients saw this as sacred geometry in motion, the macrocosm, and the microcosm dancing in perfect symmetry. The third law is vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Even what appears still is in constant motion at the atomic level. From the slow density of stone to the fast pulse of light, everything exists along a spectrum of frequency. This is not poetic imagery. It is physics, ancient and modern. It's all vibrational. The state of your mind, your emotions, your thoughts, all of it emits vibration. The frequency you are holding is the reality you are perceiving. It is not that vibration attracts things to you. Rather, it attunes you to what already matches your frequency. You don't pull reality to you. You tune yourself to a band of existence and experience what's already there. When you live in fear, you tune into a fearful world. But if you live in love, you tune into an abundant world. The world itself has not changed, you have. That is why the masters of the past focused on inner alignment rather than external control. They knew reality bends to vibration, not willpower. The fourth law is polarity. Everything has its pair of opposites. What we call extremes are merely degrees of the same thing. Cold and hot, light and dark, love and hate. The difference is only in measure, not in kind. Polarity is what allows transformation, because once you know that fear and love are not enemies, but ends of one spectrum, you realize you can move along that scale. You do not need to destroy darkness to find light. You need only increase the frequency until shadow becomes illumination. This is the essence of transmutation, being able to knowingly change your inner states. The Kybalion calls this mental alchemy, the process of changing lower vibrations into higher ones, dense emotions into refined energy. To the untrained mind, this may look like magic. To the initiate, it is law. The fifth law is rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything rises and falls. Life moves like a pendulum, swinging from one extreme to another. Expansion follows contraction. Silence follows sound. Growth follows rest. Nothing escapes this rhythm, not even your emotions. The law is neutral. It is balance in motion. When you understand it, you stop resisting the tides. You stop labeling phases as good or bad. The low tide becomes as sacred as the high. The masters of old did not seek to eliminate the pendulum. They learned to rise above it by entering the still center, the point that moves through both extremes without being lost in either. The sixth law is cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. Every choice creates a chain of results. There is no true randomness, only complexity beyond our understanding. When you throw a stone into a lake, ripples move outward, touching everything along the shore. Your thoughts do the same in the field of mind. Every intention, every emotion, every word creates movement. This is not punishment or reward. It's just resonance. What you send out comes back, because the universe is circular. Karma is not fate. It's feedback, the reflection of what you have projected, whether through action or thought. The seventh law is gender. It teaches that creation requires two complementary forces, the masculine and the feminine. Every level of existence contains both. The masculine principle gives direction, structure, and focus. The feminine principle gives intuition, receptivity, and flow. Creation happens when these two harmonize. The mind conceives through the feminine and manifests through the masculine. Too much of one without the other creates imbalance. True power is in union. These seven laws operate through every aspect of your being. The moment you breathe, the moment you think, the moment you feel, they are moving through you. You cannot escape them any more than you can escape gravity, but you can work with them. This is what the Kybalion means when it says, the masters obey the law on higher planes and rule it on lower ones. They don't break the laws of the universe. They understand them so deeply that those laws begin to serve their evolution instead of their unconsciousness. The ignorant mind thinks that it can cheat life. The wise mind understands every cause has an effect. Every vibration has a consequence. Every polarity seeks balance. So the initiate doesn't resist. The initiate harmonizes. The more you harmonize, the more synchronicities tend to appear. You think of someone and they call. You imagine a solution and it unfolds. The line between thought and manifestation begins to blur. This is not luck. This is alignment. The ancient priests of Egypt knew this long before modern science discovered the laws of energy. They performed rituals not for the appeasement of gods, but for alignment in vibration. Their chants were frequencies, their symbols codes, and their temples' instruments tuned to resonate with cosmic order. What they were studying was consciousness as law. The Kybalion is the distilled memory of that science. It is not a religion. It's a manual for awareness. It tells you that the divine is not somewhere above the stars, but pulsing in the very atoms of your body. That the sacred geometry of creation is written in your breath. That the all is not distant. It is you remembering itself. And perhaps that is the real reason this has been kept hidden. Once you understand, you can no longer be controlled by fear. You stop believing that the power is outside you. You realize everything you experience begins within. Most people are not ready for that kind of responsibility. To live by law is to live consciously. And that means every word you speak becomes a cause. Every emotion you hold becomes a vibration. Every silence you choose becomes an act of creation. But when you are ready, the laws cease to be theories. They become guidance. They start to show up through your daily life. You begin to see correspondence in conversations. You feel rhythm within your own moods. You watch polarity at play in relationships. You recognize cause and effect in your choices. You sense gender in the balance between intuition and action. The universe becomes a living classroom, and initiation is not in secret temples anymore, but in each and every moment that one wakes up to these laws and then chooses to live with awareness. The Kybalion does not ask you to believe, it asks you to see, because once you see, belief is no longer necessary. We will go into detail in the next part about how these laws interrelate, the hidden architecture that links vibration, polarity, and rhythm into one flow. You will start to understand why even chaos is part of order and how to move with it, not against it. The laws are not separate. They're 7 strings of one instrument, and when you learn to play them consciously, life begins to sing back. If the laws of the Kybalion are the architecture of the universe, then rhythm, vibration, and polarity represent the pulse that keeps it alive. The unseen movements beneath every breath, every emotion, and every shift are those of rhythm, vibration, and polarity. Once you understand them, you begin to see that even what looks like chaos is only a higher order you have not yet recognized. The law of vibration tells us that nothing rests. Even in stillness, there is motion. The same is true for thought. Even in silence, the mind vibrates. Every idea, every emotion, every belief emits a subtle frequency that joins into the greater symphony of the all. You are surrounded by an ocean of vibration, and with each thought that you hold, ripples move out through that ocean, touching everything around you. This is the reason why the Kybalion says that nothing happens by chance, that which you call coincidences are meetings of the resonating vibrations, the right person whom you meet at the right time, a message which appears at the perfect time. That event that changes everything, all falls into a pattern, being woven through vibration. You attract what matches your inner frequency, but vibration alone is not enough. It must be understood through rhythm, the law that governs all movement in time. Rhythm is the great balancing force of the universe. It is the swing of the pendulum, the rise and fall of tides, the ebb and flow of energy. Everything that lives is touched by it. The heart beats, the moon waxes and wanes, the seasons come and go. The initiate learns that this rhythm also governs the mind. Joy and sorrow, confidence and doubt, expansion and retreat all move in cycles. When you are unaware, you fight these movements. You cling to what is pleasant and resist what feels heavy. But when you understand rhythm, you begin to surf its motion rather than drown in it. The wise mind knows no emotion is permanent. The falling tide rises again. The surrounding darkness yields to light. To live with awareness is to rest within that still point at the center of the swing, where rhythm cannot disturb you. The masters called this the principle of neutralization. By holding to the center, they rose above the extremes. And yet, rhythm is not punishment or test. It is growth in motion. Each return to a familiar challenge brings deeper understanding. What looks like repetition is actually evolution. Life moves in spirals, not circles. Each time the pattern returns, you are at a higher level of awareness. You see the same lesson from a new height. Polarity adds one more layer to this movement. It shows every rhythm moving between two poles, heat and cold, light and dark, love and fear. They are not enemies but expressions of the same energy. Without polarity, rhythm would not exist, and without rhythm, vibration would not have direction. The universe breathes through these opposites. The key is to realize that opposites are not fixed. They are connected by a line of degrees. If you are on one end, you can move toward the other. The initiate learns to shift position along that line at will. Anger can become courage. Fear can become awareness. Doubt can become humility. Every state can be transformed because nothing is separate from its opposite. This is the essence of inner alchemy, the art of transmutation, wherein lower vibrations get raised into higher forms. The ancient alchemists symbolized it through metals. They spoke of turning lead into gold, but the true lead was dense emotion, while the true gold was awakened consciousness. The work of transmutation starts in the mind. When the anger arises, observe it without judgment. Feel its energy. Beneath the fire, it is vitality, passion, and strength. Channel it into creation. When sadness arises, let it speak. Underneath its weight is love longing to express itself. Listen until it reveals its message. Every shadow conceals light waiting to be set free. This process doesn't deny emotion, it honors it. To suppress what you feel is to block vibration. To observe and transmute, it is to allow energy to evolve. The Kybalion calls this the art of polarity, the ability to move along the scale, not by force, but by understanding. Awareness itself becomes the agent of transformation. Contemplate nature. The seed must split in order to grow. The sky must darken before the rain falls. The earth must rest before blooming again. Each transformation requires an oscillation between extremes. You expand and contract. You open and close. You rise and you fall. Every swing has purpose. To live in awareness of this is to stop judging your own process. There is no failure when you fall. There is rhythm. There is movement. There is the pendulum finding its balance. Each descent into confusion or fear is an invitation to rise with greater clarity. You are not regressing. You are spiraling forward. The masters of the ancient world knew this intimately. In the temples of Egypt, initiates were taught to study rhythm by observing the stars. They watched the planets trace their slow paths across the heavens, repeating cycles that mirrored the movement of human life. They knew that to resist the cosmic rhythm was to create suffering, but to align with it was to experience peace. That is why their rituals followed the phases of the moon, why their chants matched the vibration of the seasons. They were not performing superstition. They were tuning consciousness to the pulse of the universe. Harmony is restored when body, mind, and world are moving together. That is what the Kybalion means by mastery. The end of rhythm is not in the mastery, but it is the conscious art of flowing with it. You start feeling when to act, and when to rest, when to speak and when to be silent, when to let go and when to hold firm. Your life becomes a dance instead of a struggle. You stop forcing outcomes and begin to cooperate with the movement of the all. This is what the modern world has forgotten. We have been taught to live in constant motion, to resist stillness, to demand progress without pause. But nature does not move in straight lines. It moves in waves. When you align with those waves, you rediscover balance. Productivity becomes purpose. Rest becomes renewal. The mind becomes clear again. As you live with them, you begin to feel how each one merges into the others. Vibration brings motion. Polarity gives direction. Rhythm gives timing. Together they yield the flow of life. And in that flow, you are no longer lost. You're part of the intelligence which sustains everything. The ancients said that to understand vibration is to understand energy. To understand polarity is to understand transformation. To understand rhythm is to understand time. When you grasp all three, you stand at the threshold of freedom. For then you can see that every experience, both pleasurable and painful, is an attempt by the universe to teach you how to move in harmony with itself. You begin to see patterns around you everywhere, the rise and fall of emotions, the cycles of relationships, the seasons of opportunity and retreat. And instead of asking why they happen, you begin asking what they are showing you. This is the consciousness of the initiate, seeing meaning in motion, finding wisdom in change. The wisdom of the Kybalion was not hidden because it was secret, but because few were willing to look within long enough to see it. Yet it has always been there, repeating in every rhythm of nature, humming in every vibration of the soul. It waits for those who will listen. And if you have heard even the faintest echo of that rhythm while reading this, then you are already remembering. You're not learning something new. You're recognizing what your spirit has always known. In the next section, we're going beyond comprehension to application, how these laws apply, how to live them, breathe them, and bring about a transformation with knowledge. For the Kybalion was never meant to be theory. It was meant to be lived. When knowledge starts to move through you, it ceases being an idea and becomes a living presence. The laws of the Kybalion are not there to be memorized. They are meant to be embodied, to be the rhythm of your breath, the clarity behind your choices. For when you have truly learned them, when it has finally seeped into your very bones, you begin to live in a world that will feel ancient and entirely new. The journey of the initiate is not about escaping reality, but seeing it clearly. Every moment is a field of correspondence, and every event a mirror, showing you your own vibration. What once looked like coincidence starts to reveal intelligence, and what once felt random begins to take on patterns that speak in a language more profound than words. You begin to notice the law of correspondence in quiet ways. The tone of your inner world begins to appear in your outer life. When your thoughts are tangled, your environment becomes chaotic. When you find peace within, the world around you softens. The people you meet shift, your opportunities change, and the flow of life begins to respond to the energy you carry. You realize the law of cause and effect is about precision, not punishment or reward. Every thought is a seed, every emotion is soil, every action is water. What you nurture grows. The universe doesn't judge what you plant, it simply amplifies it. If you sow doubt, you harvest uncertainty. If you sow faith, you harvest clarity. This is an awareness that in itself alters how one navigates the world. One speaks with greater intention, pauses before responding, observes before reacting, and begins to realize that even silence is cause, and that stillness is not absence, but potency. Thus the initiate lives as if every movement carries meaning, because it does. To live in harmony with these laws is not to live without challenge. It's to move through challenge without losing center. When the pain comes, you no longer ask why it's happening to you. You ask what it's teaching you. The law of rhythm guarantees that the pendulum will swing back. Every descent prepares an ascent. Every contraction holds the seed of expansion. There's a peace that comes with that knowledge. You realize that no low lasts, and no high must be clung onto. You cease striving and begin trusting. You learn to move with the tides, to move when it rises, to rest when it falls. This is not indolence, it is wisdom. The ancient initiates practiced this by observing nature. They studied the tides, the winds, the migration of birds, and the blooming of plants. They saw how everything obeyed timing, how nothing bloomed out of season. And when a student complained of a stagnant life, a teacher would take them to the deserts and say, even stillness has a rhythm. The seed waits in silence before it breaks open. You begin to realize that the external world is only a classroom for the internal one. The relationship that ends is showing you polarity. The opportunity that vanishes is teaching you rhythm. The mistake that repeats is revealing cause and effect. The moment you see this, even difficulty becomes sacred. In modern life, this wisdom still applies. You can feel the law of vibration in your daily mood. If you have spent the day surrounded by negativity, your energy is low. If you begin with thanks, your whole field shifts. The people you meet, the decisions you make, the ideas that come to you all follow the tone you set at the start. This is not superstition. It's physics of the spirit. With every act of creation, the law of gender gradually reveals itself. You become aware of the dance between doing and being, between logic and intuition. When you push too hard, life pushes back. When you only dream and never take action, the dream stays dormant. But when you allow the receptive and the active to work together, creation flows. You can feel this even in something simple. When you meditate, you are in the feminine mode, receptive, open, listening. When you take action on the insight you receive, you shift into the masculine, focused, expressive, directed. Together, these two forces keep the current of life alive. Most people live stuck at one extreme. Either they act without stopping to listen, or they wait for a sign and never move. The initiate learns to flow between both, like the tide, knowing when to yield and when to advance, when to receive and when to create. This balance is what gives rise to mastery. Applying the Kybalion in daily life is to remember that everything starts with thought. The world is not something happening to you. It's something responding to you. The way you perceive yourself sets the quality of your experience. If you believe you are powerless, life will confirm it. If you believe you are a creator, life begins to rearrange itself around that belief. But belief is not enough. It needs to be taken into embodiment. You train your vibration through attention. You guide your rhythm through awareness. You balance polarity through compassion. You transform cause and effect through conscious choice. You harmonize gender through creativity and rest. These practices are not mystical, they're natural. A small example: you wake up in the morning, take a deep breath, and watch what the first thought that comes into your head is. Is it gratitude or a concern? That first thought sets a vibration. If you shift it to gratitude, then your whole field adjusts. The law of vibration begins to attract experiences that resonate with it. Later, something catches you off guard, and you pause instead of acting. You observe the emotion rise and fall. That is rhythm. You let the pendulum swing without clinging to either side. In doing so, you rise above it. You reflect at night on your day. You notice what actions brought harmony and what brought conflict. That is cause and effect. You learn not to judge, but to understand. The next day, you plant new causes. Slowly, your life begins to change. This is how the Kybalion works, not as theory, but as practice. It's not about controlling the universe. It is about understanding it so deeply that control becomes unnecessary. You're no longer fighting reality, you flow with it, like a bird gliding on invisible air currents. Hermes Trismegistus said, "The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding." And when you live these laws, those ears begin to open. Wisdom is not something you find in a book. It is the state of awareness that arises when you live in alignment with truth. At a certain point, you begin to sense that these laws are not external at all. They are not forces acting upon you. They are within you. The mind that governs the universe is the same mind that perceives it through your eyes. The rhythms that shape the cosmos are the same rhythms that move your breath. The polarity which divides the world into light and shadow exists so consciousness can know itself through contrast. This is the secret the Kybalion points toward without ever saying directly. The 7 laws are not 7 things. They're one intelligence seen from 7 angles. The all isn't above you or outside you. It's expressing itself as you. When you live with that awareness, life changes. You don't look for miracles anymore. You see that everything is a miracle. Every sound is sacred. Every gesture is sacred. Every heartbeat is sacred. You realize that creation is happening now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. The all is thinking through you in this very moment. And when that realization becomes more than an idea, becomes the quiet truth beneath every breath, you begin to live as the ancients did, calm, present, aware, not as a student trying to master the laws, but as consciousness remembering it was never separate from them. In the next section, we finally arrive at the culmination of this journey, where these 7 principles merge into one living wisdom, where theory dissolves into direct knowing, and where you see that the Kybalion's greatest secret was never hidden. It was always waiting in plain sight, within you. There is a moment when, along any path of awakening, knowledge becomes silence, where the words that could explain it all are no longer needed. It is then that the teachings of the laws of reality end, and their embodiment begins. This is what ancients called the great work, the slow, patient process of remembering, that the all is not outside, but within you a living awareness. The 7 laws of the Kybalion are often spoken of as separate principles, but when lived fully, they merge into one continuous flow. Mentalism reminds you that everything begins in mind. Correspondence shows that what is within is reflected without. Vibration reveals that all movement is frequency. Polarity demonstrates that opposites are degrees of one essence. Rhythm teaches balance in change. Cause and effect awakens responsibility. Gender reveals that creation is born from union. Together they form the invisible structure of consciousness. When you align with these laws, life no longer feels like something to control. It feels like a current to move with. You stop demanding certainty and start listening. You stop resisting cycles and start recognizing their wisdom. You begin to live as the universe lives through rhythm, through polarity, through vibration, through constant renewal. The initiate realizes creation is never over. Each thought starts a new course. Each emotion creates rhythm. Each act is a new effect that reverberates through the field. Existence itself is an endless wave. You are not apart from that wave. You are its crest rising and falling in time. Hermes Trismegistus was not referring to a rule to be memorized when he wrote, "As above, so below. As within, so without." He was pointing to the structure of being itself. Every cell in your body mirrors the design of galaxies. Every beat of your heart reflects the pulse of the cosmos. The all does not live in distant stars. It breathes in your chest. If the universe is mental, then what you hold in consciousness becomes the seed of form. Each belief, each emotion, each quiet assumption about who you are shapes what reality mirrors back. That's why awareness is power. Not forceful power, but the subtle power of understanding that you are both the dream and the dreamer. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. To live this truth does not deny pain or darkness, but is about seeing them as part of the same field. Polarity ensures that light and shadow exist together. Rhythm, that each follows the other. When you stop labeling one as good and the other bad, you begin to move through both with grace. You begin to see that every descent carries its teaching and every rise its humility. This is the essence of balance. The initiate doesn't pursue only light. They learn to hold darkness in gentleness until it reveals what it was guarding. Not rejecting shadow, they integrate it. In that integration, vibration rises naturally. Consciousness expands with no effort. The law of cause and effect deepens this. It shows that no moment stands alone. Every experience, every meeting, every silence is a response to something set in motion. The universe is precise. Nothing is wasted. Even apparent mistakes serve purpose. The initiate looks back on the path and realizes that every turn, every pause, every loss was part of a single unfolding design. And when you see life that way, gratitude appears where blame once lived. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin to whisper, "What is this teaching me?" That simple shift changes everything. It turns resistance into acceptance. It opens the door for wisdom to enter. The law of gender reminds you that creation requires both direction and receptivity. Without the masculine focus, vision never manifests. Without the feminine openness, inspiration never arrives. In balance, the two dance. The masculine acts, the feminine allows. Together they create. Every breath carries this dual rhythm, the inhale and the exhale, the giving and the receiving. Harmony is born in their union. Living the Kybalion is to live this harmony in each choice, to move when the current flows, to rest when silence calls, to think with intention and feel with honesty, to create with love, and to allow with trust. It is not perfection that the laws ask for, it is presence. When you reach this awareness, life begins to feel weightless, not because the challenges disappear, but because you no longer fight them. You see rhythm at work even in chaos, correspondence in every coincidence, and vibration in the smallest details, the tone of a voice, the shape of a cloud, and the stillness between sounds. Existence becomes a mirror reflecting your own unfolding mind, and as your perception refines, you start to feel what Hermes meant when he called the all both unknowable and present. The all cannot be grasped by intellect. It can only be felt as the quiet awareness behind all experience. The mind tries to define it, but the heart simply knows. To the untrained eye, life still appears fragmented. However, to the initiate, everything moves in one breath. Light and shadow, cause and effect, masculine and feminine flow through one field, one consciousness, one eternal rhythm. That rhythm is you. Each teaching of the Kybalion leads to this. The 7 laws are not instructions to follow. They are a reflection of your being. When you realize that, you stop looking for them in books or philosophies. You find them in each thought, each step, each heartbeat. You begin to realize that the all is not something to attain. It is what you already are. You are the thought within the universal mind dreaming itself awake. You are the rhythm through which eternity speaks. You are the vibration that gives the formless a name. This is why the Kybalion says, the truth cannot be spoken. It must be realized. The moment you recognize yourself as consciousness creating, the search ends. Not because you've found all the answers, but because you see every answer has always been within. And so the ancient wisdom becomes simple again. The mind creates, the heart harmonizes, the soul observes, the all experiences itself through it all. Sit in silence now, and you may feel it. The pulse beneath the pulse, the subtle hum that everything shares. That is the same vibration Hermes once heard in the stillness of his temples. It is the voice that never ceased speaking, waiting for someone to listen. The Kybalion was never a secret. It was a mirror, a reminder that what you seek is already alive within your awareness. The laws are not distant codes. They are the quiet rhythm of your own existence. All is mind. All is correspondence. All is vibration. Everything is polarized. Everything is in rhythm. Every cause has an effect. Every creation is the product of masculine and feminine imbalance. These are not beliefs. They are descriptions of what you already are. The moment you begin to live from that knowing, reality changes. Not because the world outside has shifted, but because you finally see it for what it has always been. One living intelligence thinking through you, breathing through you, remembering itself as you. You have not found the Kybalion. It has found you because you are ready to remember. So sit quietly for a moment, let your breath slow, let your mind settle, and feel the rhythm of your heart and the vibration of the world around you. They are not two things, they are one. And that one is the all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. And if this journey spoke to something ancient within you, subscribe and stay with us. Leave a comment sharing where in the world you are listening from. And until next time, may you walk gently, stay awake, and keep remembering the rhythm of the all.